always edit it. So go. Okay, so we're gonna, Michael, are you ready?
I'm here, babe.
Okay, so we're gonna introduce like all of our group members to you just so you know who's speaking when they're speaking. So obviously, I'm me.
I'm Michael.
Good afternoon.
Hi, I'm
Just
Brandon.
shut the door for a second.
Okay.
I think he's
Well, you guys' faces are huge. Oh, because I'm zoomed in. Wait, how does it go away?
All right, guys. What you got?
All right. Well, that's Arnav, and then
Hi.
that's Sunny, and
Good afternoon.
that's Tony, and that's Alex. Okay, so this is for our Entrepreneurship 200 class. Dad, stop distracting him.
I just didn't get what I ordered. If you can't do it, no problem. I'll go to Walmart. Oh, I can do it. I mean, I just can't. Okay.
Okay, so you just have like about 25 questions for you. It should only take about 10 minutes.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna start with how did you come up with the idea?
No, we're not. We're going to start with where did you go to college and what were your first few entrepreneurial
All right.
ventures before BAMCO? What are you shutting that?
I went to college at Ramapo College in New Jersey. And my first entrepreneurial ventures were, before this, I sold merchandise out of the trunk of my car.
Okay, so then you can ask it.
So, how did you come up with the idea of BAMCO?
I was working for a company that manufactured building materials. The name of that company was a company called Architectural Panels, Inc. And I was working for them for a couple of years. We were always struggling to find people to install our product. So we decided to open a little division of the company that installed panels. At the time, we were minority shareholders. We owned 25% of the stock. The parent company owned 75%. And, we just started from there. BAMCO was basically the Bob Allen and Mike company. And, that was 30 years ago. And today, over the years, it's constantly grown and expanded and become what it is.
What is an average workday like?
An average workday? You mean from a timeline perspective? What do you mean?
Like everyday work.
Like, what's your day-to-day? Like, when you come in the office at 6 and then you leave at 6, like, what happens? What's the plan of events that plays out?
I would say the first, generally speaking, the first thing that I do, I get in at 7, is hit my emails. They can be numerous. It can take anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes to really go through that. I have an assortment of responsibilities here. Basically, all the departments report to me. And for the most part, my day consists of problem solving. We have a lot of employees here. Not a lot, but there's over 100. And there's 4 department heads. And, they're constantly coming at me with their issues. Somebody has to be the, final decision maker. That's predominantly, what I would say I would do. I have a lot of meetings. We do 200 jobs a year, and every job has a pre-job meeting, so be a reasonable assumption to say there's one of those every day. I do employee reviews. We have 200 and some employees, so it's a pretty safe assumption to say that there's at least one of those every other day. We have a full engineering staff meeting once a week that takes about 2 hours. We have a full fabrication-only meeting once a week that takes about a half an hour. We have a full field staff meeting once every other week that takes about 2.5 hours. So just to give you, basic overview, there's some built-in things. That would, basically mean over the course of a month, there's 4 engineering meetings, there's 4 fabrication meetings, and 2 field operation meetings. So there's 10 meetings of significance every month. There is approximately 10 employee reviews every month, and there is approximately 15 pre-jobs every month. So if you add them up, you're talking about 35 to 40 meetings that are built into my schedule. And then we work everything else around that.
Thank you. Did you have any risks when you first got into the business?
Certainly. Huge risk.
And
What were they?
yeah.
Failure. Failure, without a doubt. That's the biggest, the biggest risk. If you fail, you're going to lose a lot of money. You're going to be in debt. You're going to have no job. And you'll have wasted years of your life.
All right, I have a couple of questions for you. How did you finance your process, and what was it like?
At the time, we were young, and there wasn't much to the company, so it wasn't like we were going to get a loan. We basically took cash advances on our credit cards and maxed out every credit card we had. And it was very frustrating. We were always one step ahead of the bill collector. We went many, 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 many times without getting paid. But eventually you make a buck and you start to pay off some of your debt. But basically it was all self-financed through credit cards. That's how we did it.
Okay, and what has been your most important marketing strategy?
I would say marketing. The single most important thing is that always honest, and we always do, regardless of the cost, the very best job that we can. Nothing can replace having a good reputation.
All right. And what would you consider your greatest achievement to be?
My greatest achievement would have to be the fact that I've supplied a great place to work for 100 people.
Yeah, ask him about that. Ask how he interacts with his employees.
And how do you keep this interaction with your employees?
What do you mean?
Okay, basically, what's your rapport with your employees? Like, why do people want to work for Vamco?
Well, I would say first and foremost is that we're completely honest. We don't bullshit people. We don't wave carrots in front of them that don't exist. So when you trust the people that you work for, it's very easy to have an open rapport. We pay them top dollar. We give them the very best tools that they could use, and then we expect them to succeed. We have a very high level of accountability here. Accountability is a great format for people who are successful because everything you do will be noticed. It's a terrible environment for people who are not successful because there's no place to hide. We'll see everything. So I would say the biggest thing that's attracted people here is has definitely been that we're honest and they can always count on getting a straight answer.
All right, awesome.
That would be it.
Okay. Now Alex has a few questions for you.
Okay. When you were starting your business, was there any, I guess you could say, influence from other people in that field?
Yeah.
I would say no, not really. I don't feel that we were mentored or influenced very much by anybody else in the field. I would say we pretty much are pretty driven people. My father was a significant influence on my life and how I conduct myself. From a business perspective, I don't know if I would say that we were mentored. No.
How about any pressure from anybody else?
Excuse me?
Did you have any pressure from any other companies? like
pressure from other
trying
companies.
to keep you out of that field, like feeling threatened?
Certainly. Nobody wants a new kid on the block. Nobody wants competition. Basically, people would, sell your weaknesses, which are that you're inexperienced, underfinanced, and incapable. But, you keep fighting and get your foot in the door first because you're low price, and then you go out there and you perform, and eventually, your record will speak for itself.
So what would you say your competitive advantage is then over those companies?
Today,
Yeah, today. Sorry.
we have great talent who work for us, and we have we're very regimented as far as our systems go. So I'd say we have tremendous talent. We have great systems, and that creates a culture that gives you a leg up on everybody else.
And one last question. When you were in the growing stages, in the early stages of your business, did you have a plan B or some kind of exit strategy?
Never.
Just went with it?
Never had a plan B.
Okay. All right. Who's next? Is it? All right. I think Tony has some questions for you now.
Hey, whatever you do in your life as far as your business goes, if you approach it with a plan B on what am I going to do if I fail, pretty good chance you'll fail.
Our teacher always tells us that you need an exit strategy, whether it be... Wait, so you have your people like Robert Friedman, he owns part of the company as well, right? So like other people are invested as well as you and Alan?
No.
No?
Some people have, everybody here is incentivized by one form or another, compensation of the profits. We profit share with a lot of people.
Okay.
Hi, so I had a few questions. You briefly mentioned that your company was self-financed at the start, right, with credit loans and stuff. Could you talk about briefly whether you had some sort of a strategy to mitigate your risk over, what happens if you couldn't pay those credit cards back? Did you have a sort of brief strategy to sort of try and combat or spread out the overall risk that you were taking up?
I can honestly say we didn't.
Okay.
Failure was not an option.
Okay. So you just relied back to your core values of excellent service and a really good reputation to try to pull you through.
Well, we always figured that we were smart guys. We had a lot of confidence in ourselves, and that if nothing else, we could outwork everybody else.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that's a really good slogan to run by. I guess another thing, did you ever have a tipping point for your business? Either good or bad, you knew that you'd hit the jackpot, or that there were some stresses that you were taking on?
Sure, the business has had 3 or 4 tipping points in its history.
Mm-hmm.
We have had some consulting firms come in and take a look at how we did things. After maybe 10 or 12 years in business, we brought a management consulting firm in to come in and take a real look at, help us develop some systems.
Mm-hmm.
That was important because it gave our business some structure rather than just a couple of young entrepreneurs running. That was very, very important. At around year 17 or so, 18, we made a pretty significant move and hired a seasoned chief financial officer to run the financial end of the business, which, gave us a lot of discipline and freed myself and Alan up to, really focus on the things that we do most at the company. I would say, they would be 2 of the more significant things. Your first $1 million job is a real big threshold. It gives you some confidence. I would say they would probably be a couple of the real watershed moments.
Okay. For a small business owner, do you recommend breaking up your goals into milestones and then trying to tackle each one at a time and then going from there, or just having a massive plan and just scatterplotting everything that you're trying to do?
No, you definitely have to break yourself up down into, you definitely got to take the macro and make it a micro. You have to, you know, tackle, you know, something as it's a meal that you can eat and you can chew on. You can't just, you know, you can't just throw a week's worth of food on one plate. You have to definitely break it down and approach it step by step.
Okay. No, fantastic. I guess there was one more question. Yeah. You were going to take it? Oh, no, we'll just ask you. Thank you very much for that.
Okay, so what's the one thing you would like to do differently now? Yeah, like if you started the business in this generation, what one thing you would do differently?
One thing I would do different if I started the business over again. That's a very interesting question. I would say I might have benefited from a little more education.
Okay.
And I can't really say if I had it to do over again. My guess is I probably would have ended up playing it the exact same way.
Ah, okay, cool. And how would you like people to remember you and your company? Like,
how would I like to be remembered? I'd like to be remembered as the guy who caught the most fish.
He does love fishing.
Okay, so I think Katie has a few questions.
Okay, yeah. All right, I have some questions just to wrap it up. How do you think being an entrepreneur has turned you into a better person, if it has?
That is a very, very good question. And I would say that one of the most biggest things that it's done is that it's exposed me to many, many, many more people and what their issues are in life, because you have employees who, you know, you're a family, you work together. We have so many people who have been here for 10 years. So, you know, number one, the exposure to really what's inside so many other people has probably, that doubt made me a better person, a little more humble. It's made me look at things from all different sides of the table. Number one. Number two, or the other thing that I would say is, you know, my own experiences are, you know, right now it's a nice run. I'm in my 50s. We've been at it for 30 years, but there was many, 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 many years of struggle,
Right.
of no money. And it's that forced me to be disciplined, probably give me a little better respect for a dollar.
Okay. And do you have any advice to offer for new entrepreneurs, like the people in our group?
Absolutely. I would say to you that a couple of things. If you walk away from this project with one or two or three tidbits, I would say, number one, be honest. Don't bullshit people, because people, you know, the really sharp people will see through that. Number one. Number two, there is no substitute for hard work. No substitute, no substitute, no substitute. And if you work as hard as you can, first of all, most people don't, so it puts you ahead of the pack to begin with. And if you do your very, very best every single day, you know, odds are you'll do well. I tell my employees all the time that there's two kinds of people in the world, and you should walk away with this as a lesson. There's a guy that if you tell him to sweep the floor, there's the guy who makes sure that, you know, he gets everything that's in the middle of the aisles and there's nothing for anybody to trip over, and it looks like you basically swept the floor. Then there's the guy who, if you tell him to sweep the floor, he pushes all the tables out of the way, gets under every table, gets into every corner, gets in, and when he's done, the floor is clean. Okay? And if you understand the difference between the two, it's a matter of, you know, self-respect and how you do everything that you do. So you got to do your very, very best every day, all day long, at everything that you're tasked with. And the last thing that I would tell you is that, you know, we all read the stories about the dot-coms, and we all know about the instant millionaires, and that does happen. And, you know, some people hit the lottery too. But the reality is it takes most people 20 years to develop a successful business. And you have to stick to it, and you can't run. And the first sign of, you know, bad times, you have to do your best, and you got to stick with it. And if you do those things, odds are good things will happen.
All right, and then, okay, we do have one more, actually. It's kind of quick, though. Do you see yourself in the near future staying with your business because you said you're in your 50s and you have family? Or do you see yourself selling it? What are you going to do in the next, like, what's your next 10-year plan?
That's a question that I don't know if I necessarily would want to answer right now. I would say I like to work, and I'm stimulated by it and challenged by it. So I just maybe like to work not quite as hard.
Okay.
So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens there. I got 3 young kids. I got a couple of college educations coming up, as you guys well understand. I got some weddings coming up. Odds are I'll still be working next year.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Mike.
You're very welcome, Kate.
And
Hope you guys got something out of this. Hope you
Yeah.
found it interesting. And hope you walk away with a couple of tidbits that you hang on to for the rest of your life.
For
Thanks very
sure.
much, Mike.
Thanks.
All right, guys.
Talk to you later.
That's it.
Yep.
I'm
That's
out.
it.
You're done.
Have a good day.
You too.
Bye. Bye, Dad.
See you, Kate. Talk to you soon, honey.
Yep, for sure.